It wasn't an easy task for the Senate Intelligence Committee to get answers from Jeff Sessions today. Numerous times, the Attorney General either wouldn't answer or couldn't quite recall.
I would have gladly have reported the meeting, the encounter that may have occurred, that some say occurred in the Mayflower, if I had remembered it, or if it actually occurred, which I don't remember that it did. I still do not recall it. I don't recall any such meeting. I don't recall it. I don't have the detailed memory of that. I guess I could say that I possibly had a meeting, but I still do not recall it.
I want to discuss it now with Scott Jennings, a former special assistant to President George W. Bush, and CNN political commentator Bakari Sellers. Good evening, gentlemen. So, Bakari, there were a couple of key things for Attorney General Sessions to address today. One, a possible third meeting with the Russian ambassador, which is under FBI investigation. Now, Sessions claims he did not have or a one-on-one, or he couldn't recall that meeting with the ambassador, Ambassador Kislyak. So, do you believe him?
Do I believe him? I think that's a very difficult to answer. It's a question to answer by saying, yes, I do believe him, because we do know that he's misremembered many things before. He's failed to disclose information, and in my view, he perjured himself in his first hearing in front of the Senate committee when he was going through the process to become Attorney General. But I had more trouble with the hearing today because I don't think any new information came out. The ball didn't move one way or another for Democrats or Republicans. But there was just a level of incompetence and lack of preparation on behalf of the Attorney General of the United States that was startling. He was bumbling through today, and he looked so ill-prepared that it was concerning that he is the person who's in charge of protecting many Americans.
Do you agree with that, Scott? Because according to what we've heard from reporters in Washington, the president was happy with his testimony and said he did a very good job.
Well, I agree with one thing Bakari said, and that is no new information came out today. We had a lot of hours of hearings today and then last week, and no credible information has surfaced proving what the big picture item here is, the collusion theory that the Trump campaign colluded with Russia. None of that happened today. None of it happened last week. We also got some clarity on the Mueller situation today. Earlier in the day, before Sessions, Rod Rosenstein testified, and then Sessions commented on as well. And this whole sort of, outlandish idea that Mueller was on the chopping block, I think Rosenstein and Sessions put that to bed. So I think it was a fine day. I think Sessions defended himself and felt like his character has been under attack, and he looked like a man who had some things to say today and didn't appreciate being accused of some of the things that the Democrats have accused him of.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't also. To be clear, though, the question has never been whether or not Jeff Sessions colluded with the Russians. I mean, the question has always been, why does Jeff Sessions continue to lie about his contacts, or he cannot remember his contacts? The fact is, Kislyak is apparently the least memorable person in the history of Washington, D.C. But the question is, why does Jared Kushner, why does Jeff Sessions, why do these people keep lying about their contacts with the Russians? That was the heart of today's hearing. And yes, he just didn't remember anything because he just didn't want to answer any of these questions. So no new information came out. I still don't think it was a good day for Jeff Sessions, but none of these days are good for Donald Trump.
Yeah, and look, Scott, I just want to put this out there. When you talked about the firing of Mueller, this is a New York Times account tonight, and this is just part of one of the quotes that they said, that the president was pleased by the ambiguity of his position on Mr. Mueller and thinks the possibility of being fired will focus a veteran prosecutor on delivering what the president desires most, a blanket public exoneration. So, maybe it wasn't under consideration, but maybe the president himself was floating that out there to send a message to the special counsel.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that strategy. That may be what some people think. I don't think that is the kind of strategy that's going to work on an independent counsel like Mueller. I think the best thing that can happen here is that Mueller does his job. He interviews and investigates the things that need to be investigated. And I think what we're ultimately going to find out is what we already know. The Russians are bad people. They've interfered in elections around the world. They apparently tried to interfere in ours. But that doesn't necessarily prove collusion or mean they had to have a colluding partner. They just intervened in Qatar the other day, and they didn't need a colluding partner there to intervene. So I think the Russians are bad. I think they've tried to interfere in our democracy, but I'm still not sold that we've seen any evidence of collusion between Trump and the Russians to engage in that kind of infraction against the United States.
I want to make sure I get this in because it's an important topic. Sources are telling CNN's Jim Acosta that President Trump told senators in their health care meeting today that the House bill is mean and a son of a bitch. I have to ask you, if it's so mean, Scott, why did the president and the Republican colleagues have a giant party at the White House celebrating and praising each other and celebrating that bill?
And distinct privilege.
Well, it's a good question because you do want message discipline when you're trying to pass a big piece of legislation, the way we're trying to pass a repeal and replace for Obamacare. And so it does put Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill in a weird box to go out and see their work celebrated one day and then not the next. But look, here's the thing. We don't know what exactly the context of the conversation was, A. And B, we've always known the Senate was going to significantly change the House bill. They signaled that from day one, that they were going to make serious changes, and we're going to see those changes soon enough. So it worries me that we don't have consistency and message around such a big ticket item, but I'm waiting to see what Mitch McConnell and the Republicans come up with, because ultimately the ball's not really in Donald Trump's court, it's in the Senate Republicans' court.
Bakari, what do you think of the flip-flop?
Well, I think this is Donald Trump through and through. And the problem that we have is Republicans don't know how to govern. They're trying to pass a health care bill which affects 1/6 of our economy in secret. And it's just not going to fly. Millions of Americans are upset. They're angry. They're speaking out. And we can try to put lipstick on this pig all we want. But we're not going to stand for Donald Trump or the Republican Party parading around and taking away our health care.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. When we come back.